Let's go ahead and answer a listener email. This one comes from Daniel A. I don't want to give the last name. Says, hey, Kim, loved the discussion that you had with the minimalists, TK Coleman and Jamie Kilstein, that was published last week. So I was on a podcast called The Minimalists. We were talking about the election. This was right before the election, and that link is down below for you to check out. He says, after listening to it and after seeing some of the content you posted since the election and Biden's apparent victory, I'm a little confused here and wanted to ask you a question. Not sure if you have the time to answer it, but I was curious. It seems to me, like after listening to you, that you have the opinion that because no progressive won the Democratic primary, that another Trump presidency would be better than a Biden presidency. Am I reading into that correctly? I just left a little confused because it seems like even though I desperately wish there wasn't a two-party system where we were left with, one, Trump, who we know will not negotiate with progressives, as he's been calling them radical left, socialists, etc., and two, Biden, who we know is a moderate old-school Democrat. It seems like it was a lose-lose either way on the progressive perspective. Is the idea now that we have all fallen in line to get Trump out of office that you doubt we will actually accomplish any progressive ideals within the administration? I guess I just left feeling a bit cynical. I feel like most progressives, I identify as one, went, well, Biden was not my candidate, but hopefully we can hold him accountable. But it seems like you are cynical yourself about being able to change him. Is it because you think people will just go comatose and not hold him accountable? I feel like what would be nice to hear is some sense of positivity. Maybe it's just me, but I felt really happy prematurely to know that Trump would no longer be president, enjoyed it for all of 2 days, and then was like, we have a ton of work to do still, but don't actively have somebody holding the American people hostage with his narcissism. Am I wrong here? Given the way it always came down to the two parties, what is actionable for progressives right now? I'd love to hear that perspective from you. Thanks, Daniel. Daniel, thank you so much for your email. Right. So for me, I get this question a lot. And I think many progressives who said, no, I'm not going to vote blue no matter who, get this question a lot, which is, oh, so because it wasn't a progressive, now you're not going to be for this person and you'd rather the other side win. How dare you? That doesn't make any sense. It would make more sense, obviously, if you'd go for the guy that represents you more. And that is what I question specifically. I don't think that Joe Biden represents me any more with his policies or ideas any more than Trump did, actually. I think that Trump, in a lot of ways, was actually more progressive than Joe Biden in certain aspects. And that is hard for a lot of people to hear. But, for example, war being a big one. Now, Donald Trump was absolutely no dove. He certainly did not end the wars as much as we'd like. He had a bit of a mixed when it comes to that campaign promise of ending the wars. The result was mixed. It wasn't a failure, but it wasn't a success either. However, Joe Biden, on the other hand, has not campaigned on ending wars at all. He's not even saying it. And in fact, the people he's courting for his war cabinet are warmongers. Now, I know Trump also put warmongers into his war cabinet, like John Bolton and Mike Pompeo. But the difference is Trump had a fund for one, his campaign he ran on ending the wars. So he wasn't going to allow these warmongers to march him into new wars. And we saw that because John Bolton definitely tried. John Bolton chronicled it all in his book, how many times he tried to get Trump to go to war, and essentially Trump wouldn't do it. So even though, yes, Trump also had some real warmongers in his cabinet, and Joe Biden is going to be packing his cabinet with some warmongers, the difference is Joe Biden did not run on ending wars. Joe Biden has not said anything to that effect, and he hasn't made any single promise to the American people in that regard. In fact, Joe Biden is likely to ramp things up because he has not made that promise, and he's putting warmongers around him. And he's not going to give them any pushback. He's most likely to listen to his advisors, and he's most likely to march us into more conflict. I know he's planning, I believe, and I'm going to be doing segments on this with his foreign policy when it comes to Syria, for example. We probably will see escalations there. Maybe even, I don't know if he's going to make a deal in Afghanistan. Venezuela's probably a little bit worried, and so is probably North Korea, amongst other places. There's a lot of places that should be worried with the cabinet that Joe Biden is planning on putting in. So that alone, when you're looking at just foreign policy, you could say that Trump is actually more progressive than Joe Biden on that front. Trump also, he called out a lot of the issues that Joe Biden plans on just reversing. I didn't agree at all with Trump's method or his solution to some of the problems, like the issue we're having with China, for example. That is an issue that has robbed Americans of jobs. We've had I believe over 1 million jobs being offshored since China kind of entered the scene. And look, no one was caring or talking about that. No one was talking about the wealth inequality that was happening in America because of the offshoring of jobs and people not being able to achieve the American dream anymore. That is not something that any of the Democrats were really talking about. But Trump was. Now, I don't agree with his solutions. I don't agree with what he was attempting to do. With China, he was trying to put him into a trade war in order to get them to become a capitalist nation because they were able to come and buy our nation, but we're not able to go and buy theirs. His attempt was, well, then we need to have it fair. It needs to be fair. If you can buy us, we need to be able to buy you, and China's not buying it. So I don't agree with his methods, but I do appreciate he at least pointed out the problem. And that is not something Democrats are willing to do. In fact, they're just willing to make it worse. And they say, well, if you're against that, then you're a racist. So there are a lot of things, a lot of policies. Free speech is another one that, and even Trump's stance, interestingly, on Edward Snowden and Julian Assange is more progressive than Joe Biden. So to say that, well, just because a progressive didn't win, therefore, your next best option is Joe Biden in comparison to Donald Trump, I don't agree with that assessment. Even though I cannot stand Donald Trump's man-child ways, the man throws fits, he sends out terrible tweets. To me, it's like Joe Biden. So let's say we've got a machine gun. Okay, there's a machine gun, and there's a child running around that machine gun with access to the machine gun. That would be Donald Trump. And you're really worried, you're nervous. You're like, oh no, what is this child going to do? Is this child going to get on there and start pulling the trigger and everybody's going to, we're all in for it? Joe Biden's a sniper, put it that way. So you've got a child around the machine gun, or you've got the sniper around the machine gun. Or I should say a rifle. So you've got a child around the rifle and a sniper around the rifle. Who are you more afraid of? The calm, cool, collected sniper who isn't going to pull the trigger unless they mean to, or the child who might accidentally pull the trigger. They're both scary, right? It's both very scary, but one is deliberate and one is like, kind of fumbling their way into it. I'm a bit more afraid of the one who's deliberate. So yeah, Trump had a lot of, there's definitely a lot I didn't agree with Donald Trump, but the issues where Joe Biden is more progressive than Donald Trump, I don't think are as big of issues as people think. So one of them being, people say, well, but Joe Biden's better on the climate, and that's an existential crisis. Actually, the next segment I'm going to do after this is on that particular issue, on the climate issue. And the reality of it is that the United States is not on the wrong path when it comes to climate action. We're actually progressing, and we've been getting better year after year after year. And so with the United States on the right path. Now, could we be better and go faster? Could we do more? Sure. But we are on the right path. We're not on the wrong path. So in that case, you say, well, look, in that instance, yes, Joe Biden's better, but we are overall on the right path. Are we on the right path when it comes to things like never-ending wars and offshoring of jobs and the growing wealth inequality? Under Joe Biden, are we on the right path? Are we even looking at the problem at all under Joe Biden? I don't think so. So, you kind of have to look at it and say, who's really more of the existential threat in that way? I would absolutely argue that if the United States is going on the right path when it comes to climate action, then the existential threat we pose as a country to other countries is our War Department, not our climate action issues. It's not like, oh, we're the big polluters of the world, and so we're causing people in Bangladesh to have problems. That's not real. That's not happening. We're on the right path. The people of Bangladesh that are having issues are having an issue because of other countries who are not on the right path when it comes to climate action. We, however, cause a lot of death and destruction when it comes to war. We have been causing a lot of problems when it comes to the dwindling of the American dream because of the growing wealth inequality that has been going on in this country. Those are huge issues to me. I know a lot of people want to say, well, racism is a big issue, and Joe Biden is better on racism and Donald Trump is ushering in the KKK. I don't agree with that assessment at all. I think the United States, once again, even though it might not be the progress you want to see completely, we might not be perfect. Like with climate action, we are not perfect. We could do more. We could be better for sure. But when it comes to racism, you cannot say that in 2020 we are just as bad as we were in 1950 when there was actual segregation, or even, 1750 when there was slavery. You can't say that. We have made progress on those fronts. We have made progress when it comes to the areas, the progressive areas where Joe Biden is more progressive. We are on the right path. We just might not be on the right path fast enough for you. But the areas where Donald Trump is a bit more progressive than Joe Biden's not even in the ballpark. He's not even playing the game. He doesn't care. He's actually wanting to go in the other direction. And that to me is very scary. And so therefore, yes, I have a tone where I think that a Joe Biden presidency is going to be in many ways worse. Now, will he do small things, I think, that are the incrementalist things that I think will be beneficial, like raising the minimum wage, expanding Medicare? Yes, I think he'll do those things, and I think that will benefit people. But the harm he's going to do, I think, is going to outweigh the benefits. We, the American people, might feel some benefit from a rise in minimum wage and, little things here and there. But ultimately, we're just going to be plowing away at this, going in the same direction of the establishment and neoliberal policies that ushered in the feeling that created the Donald Trump to begin with. And that is only going to get worse under a Joe Biden administration. So yeah, I don't know if that clarifies. Maybe it does. I think it should clarify my position on that. It's not, because progressives lost and so therefore I'm angry and I'm just going to stick it to the Democratic Party. It goes beyond that this time. I would think that is the case if it was, Jeb Bush or somebody like that. That's the Republican. But Donald Trump was not a real Republican. He was a populist. He was a showman who really just knows what to say to the American people to get them to like him, right? So, I don't think he had very many firm stances on anything. But one thing he did seem to have a somewhat firm stance on was getting out of wars. I mean, he really did. That's something he's been saying for decades, that he wants to get out of wars, that America's wars are stupid. And so I do think he actually does believe that, even though he was unable to get us fully out of those wars. So that is kind of my position on that. What I like about Joe is he's a nice guy. He seems like a really nice guy, and he's got class and decorum. And, it's nice to have somebody stand up there and have normal answers. That is refreshing. It is. But at the same time, like I said, it's the sniper versus the child around the rifle. Thank you so much for your email. I love to receive your emails. Going to start answering more of them here on the show. So please go ahead, email me your questions. Also, if you just have story ideas or research that you want to send my way, love to hear from you. The email address that you can reach me at is kim@kimiverson.com. I do read every email that comes into my inbox, though I am not able to respond to the vast majority of them because I do get quite a few, but I do personally read them myself. So again, you can send them over to me, kim@kimiverson.com. Thank you so much for your email, and thank you so much for watching.